Right, so these are all of the plants that I've just taken out of my little courtyard area, all the plants that I've gone over. So I've got lots of hostas, I've got viola there, ferns that are bedraggled. And the question is, where do you put all of these tubs? Because I don't want them in the courtyard anymore because they were making the courtyard look tired. So what do you do with them until next year? Because plants like the hostas, which are finished now, the ferns, which are finished, they're never going to come back this year. They'll come back next year. But you have to just leave them until all the foliage sort of dies off and goes yellow, like this one. All the foliage goes like that, and then it just comes away in your hand. But that'll be sort of January, February when that happens. So where do you put them in the meantime? So I'll tell you where I put them. Numerous places. It's just a case of out of sight, out of mind. So this is the top of my garage. This is where I put all the plants that I buy, and they just sit here waiting to go into the gardens. But if we look down, this is my husband's car. So if we look down the side of his car here, where nobody looks but me, these are all plants that some of them I've dug out. There's quite a lot of Persicaria bistorta, which I only dug out of the garden about 3 weeks ago. Cut it right back down, potted it up because it's invasive and I didn't want it in the garden anymore. I'm going to keep it in tubs and then just plop those tubs into the borders next year. So I've put little labels in to tell me what it is. There's a clematis which is finished there, another clematis in here that's finished, another clematis in here. So I would, if that wasn't full up, I could put these down there. Another area where I used to keep pots of spent tulips or daffs or whatever, is on the bench under the windows here and here in the garage. But so that's my husband's side of the garage, which is very neat and organized now. And this is my side, which is, it's organized chaos. But I haven't got any room there to put plants. But if you had a nice tidy garage, you could put your pots in there. So when I had this garage all to myself, I used to have a somewhat ramshackle bench here underneath this window, and another bench along there. It was more really piles of trunks. And anyway, I used to put all my pelargoniums or geraniums on here and overwinter them. I used to overwinter my tree fern there and my acers before I realized they were perfectly happy just staying outside, and the tree fern got too big to bring in. So anything like that that keeps the green foliage through the winter, and you're sort of keeping barley alive, needs some light. But things like your bulbs, your tubs of bulbs or the hostas, anything like that where the foliage just dies down and goes underground, and goes under the soil, I just used to store in here as well and pile them up. So one good tip is to have this kind of drip tray. So obviously got no room here, but pretend I had some of the tubs there. So I would have put the drip tray down there, and then actually this one has got some bulbs in. I would put my pots on there, and then maybe once a month I would pop in and just check, see how dry the soil was. If it was bone dry, then I would give them a water, and I would water it until it sort of drained out the bottom, just started to drain out the bottom, and then I would stop, and then I would leave them 1 month, 2 months, until they needed watering again. And that just made sure that the bulbs stayed nice and plump and the roots stayed alive. That's all you're doing. These are all my old tables and things that I used to when I arranged the courtyard. So yes, I used to have them sort of all lined along there. So you could put your spent pots of bulbs or hostas or anything under the shelving in your greenhouse, but you can see mine's full. And again, just as if you put them in the garage or a hut, if they're in a greenhouse, you have to sort of water them. They don't have to be wet, but you haven't got to let the roots dry out. And very importantly, before you store anything away like a hosta or a viola, anything that's going to go underground in the winter, put a label in, because although this is very easily recognizable now as a hosta, next January, February, all I'll see is a pot of earth and I won't know what that is. So I've got my label in, and this is a favorite trick of mine for storing spent pots, and that is at the back of my borders in front of the hedge. So I've got a little path through here, and I do this every year. And can you see I've got space at the back there, and you just plonk your hostas down there and they'll be absolutely fine. So would your pots of tulips, your daffs, anything like that. And the beauty about storing the plants here between the border plants and the hedge is that they're still open to the elements, so I won't need to worry about these getting watered because they'll get the rainwater and they'll just die back naturally. I've just thought of another plant that I always used to overwinter here. It was a great big pot of lilies. So the pot was black, it was about this tall. The lilies died down. But as I'm showing you from that angle, you can't really, that's the hosta right the way through there. The Michaelmas daisy is going to be out shortly. That hydrangea will be flowering shortly there. And you really just can't see them. So yes, back of border, all the way along here, between the hedge and the border, I use as a space to just put my pots. So there we go. That's where I hide all my spent tubs, just anywhere and everywhere around the garden. But if you really haven't got anywhere that you can hide these pots full of beautiful plants, but they're not going to do anything else this year, then I've got one more idea for you, which I use a lot. And it's through in this little courtyard, which is where, by the way, all of these plants came from in the first place. So this is just a shady little courtyard. I recently tidied it all out, took all of the dead and dying foliage out, and just sort of tidied it up, really. I didn't even add any new plants to it, I don't think, but it looked so much better with all that gone. So if you look in the description box below this video, I'll actually put a link to me tidying this little courtyard out, and you'll see how it looked before with all that dead foliage in it, and then what it looks like, how much better it looks with that foliage gone. Right, so I'll take you through here. And I'll show you what I do here. So in this tub here was a fern, well, 3 ferns, and they had completely finished. They didn't look like that. They were really brown and kizened, and I know for a fact that they won't come back this year, but they will come back next year. But if you can see the pot that they're in, that must be about 2.5 foot tall. So what I do is I just plop a plant in that looks gorgeous, like that hydrangea. Could be anything that's in flower. And I'm not standing it, if you have a look, I'm not standing it on the crowns of the ferns. It's just sitting in the middle there. But you step back one step and it just looks like it's growing in that pot. But that only works for plants that won't come back. What else have I got? So I've just cut back all this astilbe or astilbe. It was all like that. This is a very early flowering astilbe. And with this pot here, he's very pretty, but I'm not sure if the leaf will grow back this year. If this was, say, another fern or a pot of tulips or something, I could just put lots of beautiful heucheras on. Let's have a look. You know, I could put 3 or 4 heucheras on there. So I do that quite often as well. Put them back on my little heuchera ladder. So there we go, that's it for today. I do hope that you've enjoyed the video and that you found it useful. And to everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.